for those who didn't get a chance to eat the pizza, but we also hope that many of you are here not just for the pizza, but also for the information we are about to get. So I just want to welcome you to our spring combined BSMS information session. For those who don't know, my name is Wahid Bajwa. I am the Graduate Program Director in the Electrical and Computer Engineering. And with me is
I'm Katie Yu. I'm the Graduate Program Coordinator here at ECE. So you'll interact with me a lot throughout the admissions process, and then I also help with advising and guiding you through your degree once you're here.
And this is my email address if you need to reach out to me. But the best thing is actually if you replace director with program, ECE grad program at soe.rutgers.edu. That will go to her, and she is typically much quicker in responding than I am. So let's get started. The purpose of this information session is, first of all, to kind of motivate you towards why you may want to do a combined BSMS program in general. Why do you want to do masters? Tell you about the BSMS program and also tell you what it would do for you, why you might want to pursue it, certain option, and then how to apply for it if you are interested. Before I do that, how many here are seniors? Okay. So for many of you seniors, if you haven't already applied, our applications for fall are open. And this, for you, you can apply to it immediately. Of course, if you have not planned well, for you, it might take a little bit longer. For our juniors, I hope everyone else is junior. Maybe there are a few sophomores who snuck in, but that's okay. For juniors, this is the time for you to start planning. If this is something that sounds interesting to you, you want to plan next academic year so that you are ready for fall 2026 and take the maximum advantage of this program, okay? Now, during the course of this, we'll also have you talk to two of our existing BSMS students. And if in addition you'll be able to ask a lot of questions from them, we'll also open the floor in general. But if something seems like you are confused, feel free to ask any question in the middle of the presentation. So what I want to take you through is this 4-point agenda: why master's degree, why the Rutgers combined BSMS program, hearing from two of our existing BSMS students, and then if you are interested, how you can apply to the BSMS program. So why the BSMS degree? It's of course not that we are saying, well, a bachelor's degree is not good enough. That is not the case for many of you. Bachelor's degree alone will be sufficient. And indeed, we have about typically in our cohort, we see roughly about 30% of our undergraduate cohort apply to this program. So for the rest, 70% BS degree alone works very well. But the reasons that you might want to look beyond the bachelor's degree are, I'm going to say there are three main reasons that people do it. The first reason is that intellectual growth. At the undergraduate level, you are introduced to a lot of topics because we do not know what you would be interested in. We are trying to set the foundation. And all of you have taken courses where you are like, I don't want to ever see this course again, right? Whether it's electronic devices or it's programming methodology or it's digital signal processing or whatever, right? Because we do not know what you want to specialize in, so we present a lot of basic knowledge to you. We introduce you to concepts so that you are aware of what exists there, or effectively, what we introduce you to is the tip of the iceberg, right? And there's a lot more hidden underneath. And the hope is that the 4 years of education helps you understand where you want to focus in additionally. So for some of you, you are interested in more intellectual growth. You decide, you know what, signal processing is the best thing that could ever happen in this world. I want to dig further into that. Or, software is my, my life, and I want to just understand more and more. Or machine learning, I have gotten introduced to it. I love it. I want to go deeper into it. Or electronic devices. That's my passion. You taught me a few courses. I didn't have enough of it. I want to get more of that, right? So that is one of the reasons that students do master's degrees. If that's one of you, you want to think about it, right? The other reason is that because you are going to dig further into a specialized topic, now when you are hired by employers, they are hiring you for that specialized topic, and that can lead to better job satisfaction. So sometimes you could be in the workforce. That was actually effectively me. After my undergraduate, I worked for 3 years, and I didn't have laptops at that time, but I was banging my head against a desktop, right? And so that's why I decided to go back to graduate school. And it is that, if you are specialized, you get to do things that are more than debugging or quality control or some of those other things. So you can have better job satisfaction because of that. I'm not saying people who have only bachelor's degrees don't get to have job satisfaction. That's not what I'm saying, but it depends upon your personality. Okay. And the third thing, which often is pointed out, is the fact that you can have higher lifetime earning potentials. Of course, you are giving up your chance to earn right after your bachelor's degree, but if the time between your bachelor's and master's is small, then you get to have more earning potential. You can get 20, 30K higher differential from your bachelor's degree compared to 1 year of extra tuition. And that, when you add 3%, 5%, whatever raises, that can snowball pretty quickly. Different people have different motivations for why they pursue graduate degree. It is not for everyone, as I said. But if this is one of your motivations, or it could be some other thing, it could be, what, I'm just not ready for the real world. That could be motivation for some other person, okay? My family used to, when I was in PhD, it took me 6 years to complete my PhD. And like, you just don't feel like giving up school, right? You just want to live in that kind of cocoon. Maybe that was the reason. I don't know. So this is the reason why people do masters. Now, if you want to do master, Rutgers is not the only option, right? You can go for, you can go to masters, NJIT, Princeton, Stevens, Penn, or West Coast, or whatever. So the question is, why then Rutgers combined BSMS program? Some of you call it 4+1, some of you call it 5 years program. That's not the exact language, because it really depends upon how long it would take you. There's no guarantee. But why do you want to do this, right? What advantage do you have? So let's focus on that, okay? So the first part, you have to tell yourself, do you want a master's? Only you can answer that. Okay. After you have answered that, my goal here is to convince you, or try to convince you, that the BSMS program at Rutgers ECE is a good value for your money and time. So why? So it's, as I said, it is because it is going to lead to one of the best values for your time and money. And the reason is, the key phrase here is when properly planned. Okay. And that's why I said for juniors, it's an excellent opportunity to start planning now. For seniors, some of you who are here, you can still get some of the benefits. We'll talk about it. Maybe you will get, but if you plan it properly, then you can actually finish your master's with only 1 more year of classes. On the other hand, if you go to the workplace and you decide to come back, whether back to Rutgers or any other place, okay? If you leave Rutgers without being a BSMS student, we do have the provision where you can apply, you're not sure, we can defer for up to a year. But once your record is wiped clean from Rutgers, you graduate, right? You come back, this deal is off the table. Right? And then 1 year, so in most places, it's not gonna take you, pretty much in nowhere, you will finish your master's in 1 year. So this is one of the key reasons you get to save either 9 months to 1 more year. Do you have a question, or you were just straightening your hair?
Yeah.
Okay, okay, good. Now, this, I'm gonna put a lot of caveats in case you have been living in a hole and have not been paying attention to the news, the federal news in particular. We do offer TAs and graduate assistantships to well-qualified students. The caveats being that, as some of my colleagues said, we don't even know if the university will exist next year or not. I think it will exist, but the funding things is a little bit crazy. But if things don't, let's hope that the worst fears don't come true, then there will be funding available. And for some of the best students, they can actually do a TA or a GA, and we'll have our BSMS student talk to you about the benefits they are receiving going next year, not this year, right? Don't tell me this year you're like, where is my rest of money? It's because this is for next year number, okay? So for next year, first semester, in addition to tuition remission and stuff, if you qualify for that, you get $20,000 stipend in addition to full tuition remission. Now, keep in mind, the key phrase here is well-qualified students, okay? Typically, the number of students who gets this financial support from our BSMS students is very small in number. You can count them on one hand. Sometimes you have to go to two, but that's about it, okay? So it's pretty competitive. And as I said, with the federal funding situation, we don't know what's going to happen, but still it is there. In addition, the Dean's Office has been giving a $1,000 scholarship to students for a few years now, which basically eats into about, it's roughly, it translates about 6%-ish effectively savings on your tuition. So 6% discount, if you want to call it that, 5-6%. And the additional thing is, and you cannot do that as an undergraduate student, okay? There are excellent faculty at Rutgers ECE, but we are small in number, and there are some specialized courses we cannot offer. Our graduate students can take up to 3 graduate courses from Princeton. So Princeton University is offering some really, really good course. You want to take that, not being offered at Rutgers, you can go and take that without paying a single dime more in tuition, okay? You would, of course, have to pass that and all that, but it's an excellent opportunity, whereas you can go to Princeton master program, except that you would have to pay probably close to, you're looking at maybe like $80,000 or $90,000 worth of tuition, right? Because there's aid at the master's level doesn't exist. So typically, to get master's, you take 10 courses. Effectively, you are saying you can take 30% of your courses from Princeton without paying any additional tuition. So wonderful value for your time and tuition dollars. You cannot compete that with any other place. You can go to any other university, you will pay at least 3-4 times more tuition. You will require at least 50%, if not more time, maybe 100% more time to get your master's. Now, how does that work? Why is that the case? So the master's degree requires 30 credits. In most universities in the US, because the accreditation bodies, so just like undergraduate degree typically requires 120 credits, master's requires 30 credits. And you need greater than 3.0 GPA in master's to get a master's degree, which translates to, on average, you need to have an average grades of B, okay? 30 credits at the master's level translate to 10 courses. Now, at the master's level, the way you should think of a graduate course is effectively like 1 credit is equivalent to about 1.5 credits of undergrad, okay? So you could say, oh, 30 credits, I am used to taking 15 credits a semester, I should be able to finish that. No, it doesn't work that way. If you take 15 credits or 5 courses at the master's level, you would be really miserable, and it doesn't work. The workload is way too high, and in particular, all graduate courses almost always are, with a few exceptions, are project-based, and the projects are all confined to the last 3-4 weeks. There is no way you can finish 5 projects in 3-4 weeks. That's not going to happen. Okay. You can ask again the experiences of our BSMS students about that, but you cannot take 5 courses. 4 courses, maybe we recommend taking 3 courses, right? So full-time load at the graduate level is 3 courses. You are considered full-time if you are taking 3 courses at a time. So if you do that right, as a regular master's student, you would need at least 3 semesters, maybe 4 semesters to finish. Okay. So what happens is the way you can finish it in 1 year is because Rutgers allows you that as an undergraduate student, you can have up to, once you have finished your degree requirements, you can have up to 12 undergraduate credits that you can take extra while you are an undergraduate student, and then you transfer it to your graduate school when you become a master's student. So effectively, those 12 credits, they have to be unused. When you look at your degree navigator, at the bottom, there's something, a section, in case you haven't noticed, right? It says unused courses in this program. Those courses have to appear there. They have to be 400 level or above. If they are ECE, there are other restrictions. They have to be lecture-based courses. They cannot be lab courses. They cannot be independent study. They cannot be, for example, J.J. Slate thesis. They cannot be internship credits, right? But 400 level or above, if you took a course in math, we allow 300 level and above also. Okay. We allow computer science 400 level and above also. So if you have taken 12 extra credits during your undergraduate, and that's where the planning comes in, I'm going to talk about it. Then what happens is that effectively you start your graduate program where you're already done with 12 credits. And you only need to take 18 more credits. Remember, the full-time load at graduate school is how many credits? 9. So that's 2 semesters worth of courses, and that's how you finish in 1. Okay. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to take 12 credits. So I'm going to give you some scenarios where, again, you can do some planning. And majority of our students actually transfer 6 to 9 credits. Very few end up transferring 12 because that requires a lot of extra course. And still you can finish in it. And if not, then you finish in a year and a half, or still much earlier than the others. Okay. So here, what are some scenarios? Well, one scenario is, for juniors now, for seniors, that ship has sailed. But whatever you are left with, we can figure out how to use that and use it for your maximum advantage. But for junior, let's say you only need to take 18 more credits in the next year to graduate. Okay, so you could have taken reduced load, but don't do that. Take advantage of you again at the undergraduate level. Once you have taken 12 credits, anything above that, you're not going to pay any tuition on that. So why take less courses? What you would do is, instead of enrolling in 9 credits per semester, you will enroll in 15 credits per semester in your final year, senior year also. And those 6 credits per semester you are banking them for your master's degree. Okay. So you are undergraduate student, but you are effectively also started taking courses that will count towards your master's degree. They don't have to be graduate courses. That's the key part here. Okay. They don't have to be graduate courses. So you can take undergraduate courses, a few more, and now you have already filled in 12 credits, so you have 12 additional credits, and you finish the remaining 18 in 1 year. But I understand that many students don't have, their requirements are way more. So for example, you needed 24 more credits to graduate. So now, instead of taking 12 credits, you enroll in 15 credits per semester. So that is, you are only banking 6 credits, right? So you have still 24 credits left for master. Well, there are ways of doing about it. So you use those 6 credits towards your master, you're left with 24 credits. And what's going to happen is that, for example, you could take 2 summers worth of internship credits. So we allow internship credits up. So for example, you graduate in May with bachelor's with only 6 credits extra. You will start at master's in September, but we allow you to do a 4-credit internship in the transition between your bachelor's and master's. There's a different process for that than undergraduate. So you got 3 more credits from that. You took 9 credits in fall, 9 in spring, and then you did another internship with 3 credits. So effectively, you plug those 3 credits during summer, and you still get to graduate with effectively in a year. Okay, 2 full-time semesters only. You will use your summers. We don't offer summer graduate courses. This is the way you earn credit for summer. Someone else could say, I don't want to do 2 summers of a 4-credit internship. Then you would have to really overload your semesters. Instead of 12, you would have to, instead of 15, you would have to go to 18. Or there are different ways. You could say, I'll do 1 summer internship. So that would be 3. Now I'm left with 21. I'll take 1 semester, 9 credits, another semester, 12 credits. 12 credits is a little, at graduate level, is a little bit challenging, but it's doable. Okay. 15, no way, don't do that. Okay. So these are some of the ways that you can actually compress everything into 1 year, and basically 1 more year, you end up with a master's degree. Okay. So what is the additional benefits of being a BSMS student? You don't have to give GRE. Okay, no GRE needed. You do not pay any admission application fee. So there is 0 downside to apply. So what we tell students is, if you are not sure, apply. All it takes is maybe 30 minutes of your time. And if you get admitted, less than that, more than that, or is that what is less than that? Okay, well, you're saying less than that, so so maybe 15 minutes or whatever, right? So if you apply, you get the decision, and if you are admitted, you don't have to decide right then and there. Unlike, we would like to hear by May, but you can say, you know what, I'm going to sit on it. Let me graduate. Let me think about it. There is no reason for you, if you have any inclination of going to graduate school, there's no reason for you not to apply. Okay, because you don't have to even write an admission essay. That's why it takes even less time. Okay. And depending upon your GPA, you may not even need a recommendation letter. If your GPA is 3.2 plus, you don't need a recommendation. So in that case, if you don't need a recommendation letter, it literally, honestly takes like maybe 3 minutes or 4 minutes. If you don't need a recommendation letter, what's the downside? Why would you not apply? And we are not going to chase you and like, oh, you applied. Why are you not, coming now? No, it's okay. You can, let's say, you can also apply and defer for a year. Because as I said, once you leave the system, we had one student come back and say like, oh, I was admitted. I decided not to come. Here I am back. I actually want to go to graduate school. Can I, I have some credit. Can I transfer? I'm like, No, you are no longer a BSMS student. You are now applying as a master's student. Have to pay admission fees. You have to get letters. You are now just like any other graduate student applicant, even though you are our student. So for seniors here, if you're not sure, doesn't matter. Just apply. And if you decide not to come, don't come. That's okay. But you don't want to be in the situation where you say, "Oh, I wish I had known. I should have applied." I feel like I want to go. Some of our students honestly are in that situation where they say, "I'll go to graduate school unless I get a job that I really want to do." They apply. They hedge their bets. They get whatever company they want to go to. Like there used to be a time there used to be a in-demand company, which is now I don't want to say its name, but they would say like, oh, if I get a job at a good place, I'll go there. Otherwise, I won't, and I'll go to graduate school. You can always make those decisions. Right? So apply if you are not sure. Okay. So I'll stop over here before I switch over to our BSMS applicants. Are there any questions directed at me in terms of what I have explained? Otherwise, we will switch over to our BSMS applicants, and some of the questions you want to hold for them. I don't know who raised their hand. Let me start with them. Yes, please.
I don't know if you can answer this right now. But what percentage of like the entire, I guess, ECE master's program is made up of these BSMS?
About rough. So the number of domestic students in our master's program is about 50%. And out of that, our BSMS is, I would say, probably 35%, somewhere in the 30s percent is the number. Yes. You had your hand up.
Yeah, so you need 7 electives and then 4 you can transfer. You can take an additional 4 to transfer to the master's, right? So one is you take like 3 theater level and then the 4 level. Can you pick and choose which ones to transfer?
You get to decide the number of courses that you can transfer are first of all 400 level and above if they are in ECE or CS or most of the other. You cannot transfer things. They have to be related to your discipline. You cannot transfer courses from music, for example, no matter how much you love music.
All right, so let's say you take like all 7 from like ECE. Can you pick and choose like which ones are not
Yes.
used in your bachelor's?
Yes, you and the degree navigator doesn't always know, but you can file the degree navigator report and they can move your courses around. Okay. Someone had a hand up over here. Very good. We will leave that question for Aditya when he comes over. Okay. Just remember that and ask him.
So, what is the application went on?
Well, I'll show you later, but for example, right now, seniors can apply for fall. Spring 2026 application will open sometime in, I believe, June or July.
That's actually technically.
Okay, it's technically open, but we are not going to review it because we are still reviewing fall applications. So probably spring applications will review during the summer. And then next year, the application will open or when I say open, like when we are actively reviewing it, we review it on a rolling basis. It's around like November, December time is when most of our students apply.
So the fall is closed?
Which fall?
No, the application for this fall.
No, it's open.
So
It's open. Yeah, it's open. You wanted to
I
ask?
was gonna say, if you're a senior and you're graduating this spring semester, it's open, but if you're a junior, don't apply until you get your spring grades on your transcript.
Someone had a hand up over there. Yes, please.
You take graduate courses during your undergrad and add on for the diploma?
Yes, so the excellent question. The question is, if you take graduate courses during your undergraduate, can you transfer more than 12? So I have had a handful of students who have actually graduated in one semester. One semester. How did they do that? Is exactly the way you said, which is that they took 12 extra undergraduate courses, but they also applied early enough. Once they were admitted, they said they want to start taking because their load was very low. Okay, so they wanted to start taking graduate courses also while being undergraduate student, and so they took some of the graduate courses also, and those graduate courses now can be transferred as a once you formally transition to master's, you have to take at least 3 courses or 9 credits. Okay, but that's pretty much it. So we have had a few cases where students have graduated with 1 semester, but for that you have to do very careful planning, including taking something called colloquium courses while you are an undergraduate student. You had a hand up? Yes, please.
So I noticed that in Rutgers, the TA position is counted as 6 credits. Is that going to be military?
No, those are called just EE credits. They are meant to showcase that you are putting in time. So let's say if you have a loan that requires you to be full-time, right? You can take a course and it will be counted as full-time load, but it's not counted towards your 30 credits. Someone else said, you had your hand up again. Sorry, first you. Do you have a question?
She asked.
Okay, yes, please.
So how is like the, I guess, requirements changing for like the thesis option versus the non-thesis option?
So the question that was asked was that in masters, we have actually 2 tracks. One is called masters with thesis. The other is masters without thesis. Masters with thesis requires 24 credits of courses. The rest of the 6 credits are tied to your thesis. The way things change is that thesis requirement is doing original research, adding to the body of knowledge, and that typically requires a year's worth of working with a faculty. And so sometimes what happens is we have BSMS students who decide to do thesis and it actually takes them longer than a year because no one can guarantee when the work would get done. But in that case, you have to take 8 courses and the rest 6 credits come from your research. Okay, someone had a hand up? Yes.
Said like apply and then you can decide later. When exactly do you have to decide?
So for our planning purposes, because we soon we will be deciding, we have already, as you know, fall courses are already out. That is based upon our projection. Masters is divided into specialization areas because as we talked about it, masters is all about digging into something, right? Now we assign courses based upon the demand for courses, right? So to be able to predict the demand, we asked our students to start telling us by May at the latest. Now, if you don't tell us by May, are we going to kick you out? Not necessarily, but we do prefer. If you tell us by May, we have a good prediction of, okay, we have 20 students who decided to do electronic devices. Now we better offer enough courses in that so that we can satisfy their needs. So it's helpful for us if you get back to us by May, but we have always approved some extreme cases where someone said, X, Y, Z, I'm waiting on this, I'm waiting on that, and we can work out some individual cases. Maybe last couple of questions, and then we'll have our panelists come, and then we'll take more questions later. Anyone else?
Just quick, so for juniors, we should apply after we get our 1 semester.
So for juniors, ideally, don't wait till at least September, October, but but unless you want to take graduate courses in fall, in which case you can apply a little bit early, but still we want to see your at least spring grades in before you apply. Okay. Last question for this round before we move to the panelists. Anyone? Going once, twice. Okay. With this, it's my pleasure to welcome 2 of our BSMS students, Chandana Pai and Aditya Sharma, please come over. And we'll hand that over this session to Katie for leading the discussion, and I'll sit back and watch.
So welcome. Thank you both so much for coming to join us. Before we learn more about your experiences, could you each introduce yourself, tell us about your specialization, when you plan on graduating, and what you're involved with here in the department and Rutgers in general?
You can.
My name is Nandana. I am specializing in electronic devices, circuits, and systems. I will be graduating this May, and I've been doing like a 1-year track. So I graduated last May with my undergraduate degree. In terms of involvement, I am a School of Engineering ambassador. So I work pretty closely with planning events for the EC department specifically and for admitted students into the School of Engineering.
Hey everyone, I'm Aditya. I specialize in machine learning via the ECE department, and I plan to graduate with my thesis next semester. So that would be December. I actually had the opportunity to be a TA in the ECE department, so I would love to answer any questions or any questions that you guys have.
Cool. Great. So could you tell us about your experience in the BS MS program and why you decided to apply?
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
My experience in the BS MS program was actually challenging as well as enriching. So when I say challenging, what I mean by this is I have access to graduate level courses while I am an undergraduate student. So I'm able to take more concentrated courses, more specialized courses, work on projects that are more complex and require more time. As for enriching, it really helps me learn more about, how different things work. I can explore more deeper into topics that I already know. Really allows me to specialize, and I'm also able to use that to enrich my resume. I'm able to impress corporations with the work I did as an undergrad, because typically as an undergrad, you will mostly be working on the foundational concepts. But while you take graduate courses, you're able to focus more deeper and really impress very competitive.
Can you give us an example of a project you worked on or something you learned
Yeah,
that you wouldn't have
one
otherwise?
of the projects that I'm actually doing is actually related to my research. For example, I'm working on a machine or reinforcement learning project on decision support systems. And that is something that can go really far into not just academia, which typically involves research or R&D, but also corporations helping businesses take decisions, for example. I mean, that's definitely a skill that you will probably not see that deep in your bachelor's degree.
Awesome. What about you, Nandana?
I think overall it's been a great experience for me. Definitely have no regrets. I think going into it, I was a little bit nervous just because I didn't really know anybody else who was in the program. And I was pretty used to like all throughout undergrad having like a group of people that I would be in the same classes with, work together with on projects. So I was kind of hesitant, wasn't sure if I would have the support system that I was looking for. But that definitely was not the case. And I could talk more about that later on. But for me, during undergrad, I was on the computer engineering track. And through some of my internship experiences, I realized that I'm more interested in hardware and circuit design. So I started taking classes related to that just because I was trying to develop my skill set, see what's out there. So many things that I didn't previously know of. And I was like, hey, this class sounds cool. Let me just take it. I have some space in my schedule. And I actually, at the end of undergrad, completed 15 credits. So I had the 12 that were unused at the undergraduate level. And I also took one class at the graduate level. And I was like, okay, at this point, I'm halfway through with the credits that I need for my master's. Might as well stick around for another year and kind of finish that out. And something else for me, once I identified what my interests were, I really wanted to delve in deeper and get more specialized experience before joining industry. That's what I want to do in the future. So I guess in addition, something personally for me, I knew that if I started working, I wouldn't really feel compelled to come back to school afterwards. I like the corporate lifestyle. I think I'd be really comfortable in that. So it just made sense for me to continue after undergrad and just stick around for another year.
So you guys started touching on this briefly, and you can go first, Aditya. What do you think are the key benefits of the BSMS program in your view?
Yeah, the largest benefit, in my opinion, is really access to a whole bunch of resources that you typically would miss out during your bachelor's degree. And what I'm specifically talking about, I already talked about access to higher level courses and projects, but really one of the largest advantage for me was deeper connections with faculty and staff, right? You really learn about how things go around, how you can integrate things, and really get, a mentor. It's not just a professor that you learn, but also someone who can give you life advice and guide you through your career opportunities. You really going for a BSMS program gives you a larger competitive hand compared to people who are just going for their bachelor's.
I would say, I know we talked about this like earlier, but compared to applying for graduate school at a different institution, which would take at least 2 years, of course, you have the option to finish within a year, maybe a year and a half, saves time and money, just to emphasize that. And also, there's such a wide range of classes offered. You really have the ability to explore so much, maybe things that you know you're interested in or topics that you previously had no like prior knowledge about and you just wanted to see if it's something that you are interested in. And even for the specialization, there are a lot of options you can choose from, and each specialization has a pretty expansive amount of courses that fall under it. So just because like a group of people are all doing the same specialization, everyone's not going to be taking the same classes. You really have the option to customize it based on your interests, and it is flexible, which I think is really unique. In undergrad, I think most of the classes are kind of laid out. You have the option to pick some of them, but for the core classes, it's kind of fixed exactly what you're taking and when it's typically taken. But here you have the option to kind of curate it for what you're looking for, what you're hoping to gain, what classes interest you. And also the career advantage for sure. Having a master's under your belt when you're applying for your first full-time job out of college makes you a much more competitive candidate. And also, instead of being considered as the entry level employee, you would be considered at level 2. So that also comes with a built-in pay raise for your first job out of college.
So follow-up question on that. So you said that you took a graduate level course when you were an undergrad. I know we're talking about that a little bit. How did that compare to taking 400 level classes, and how is that like transition for you?
Yeah, I think graduate level classes are structured a little bit differently. Dr. Bajwa kind of talked about how it's more project based. You still have homework, you still have exams. For a lot of the 400 level above classes that I transferred, they're actually cross-listed. So they're open to undergraduate students and graduate students. And I think that was like my first taste of having more hands-on project-based classes. And when I took the one graduate class as a senior, I think I definitely realized that I had to put a little bit more time in outside of class just to have a grasp on what was going on, because it was something I had no prior experience in. So it took a little bit more effort, and I think it was worth all the extra time I had to put in.
Cool, thank you.
I would like to add on that, everyone in this room is really eligible for this because it's really the same material, but it really tests your motivation, dedication. The more of it you have, you're really able to excel and put in more work. And you could use those credits as your master's credits. That's why it's cross-listed. This is the opportunity that is given. And why would you not want to take advantage of that? I'll give you, like, I'm 21. and I'm going to be I'm on the edge of graduating with my master's. So why would anyone not want to accelerate their career, their academia and graduate early on? Save money and time. If you take, I know Dr. Basha has already touched on this, but if you're taking master's credits as you do your undergrad, if you just put in a little bit more work, maybe one course an extra semester, you really save semesters of tuition.
So why would you recommend the BSMS program to students considering their options? So we kind of already touched upon this a little bit.
Yeah, I would recommend, well, my primary reason was to definitely save time, money, but also if you have interest in courses that you're already taking, maybe you're not getting enough of that, you're certainly, specializing in those is definitely the way to go. If you know that you have a passion in machine learning and you like data science and stuff like that, why would you not want to specialize in that and be more qualified to take on jobs that would give you more or jobs that you actually wanted to go into? You get a more competitive base and more experience, and if doesn't just limit you to jobs, but you could go ahead and pursue a PhD later on as well. There's nothing stopping you from doing that. It's both academia as well as corporate. You don't have to commit to one side and be like your bachelor's, I did my degree, now I would want to go for a job, or maybe I can go for a master's. Maybe I don't know how it's like. I didn't have the experience of research while I was in bachelor's. So things really go a long way.
Follow-up question on that. I know that you're doing a thesis.
Correct.
A big question people have is, how do you get a thesis advisor? Can you tell us how that worked for you?
Yeah, for me, the way it worked for me, I've already touched base before, but while you're a master's student or BSM student, you get more access to faculty and staff. You get to meet them more, talk with them more, and you can see what is the type of work that they do. And if that interests you, there's nothing stopping you from, going along the same path. And especially when they're the ones ready to advise you, to tell you about how things work and how you can optimize your strategy. For me, it was mostly that I was lucky to get a TA role, and that's how I met my advisor, with whom I'm doing my thesis with.
What about you? Why would you recommend the program to somebody else?
I think there is just so much that you can gain from spending maybe a year and a half to start. Like, you're basically able to kind of figure out, I said this before, figure out what your interests are, explore more on that. But because some classes, there are requirements of the types of classes you need to take, it also gives you the opportunity to take classes that you have no familiarity with. I know I've taken a couple of courses that I probably would not have picked if I didn't have to take it to meet a requirement. And some of those have been the most interesting classes that I have taken. Also, I think it's a very straightforward application process. I know we talked about this, but when you're applying to a different institution, you kind of have to build up like your candidate profile. You have to write essays, you have to take the GRE. You're already a student in the ECE department, like you have your profile, you have classes that you've taken here already. And it's honestly just so simple, it's so straightforward, it does not take that much time, which makes it worth it. Also, there's so much support and guidance throughout it. You're never left in the dark. Dr. Baja and Katie are both so helpful in helping plan your classes, making sure that you're able to graduate within whatever time that you're looking to complete by. And there's also the Graduate Student Association, and they hold a lot of cool events throughout the semester, whether it's for professional development or for de-stressing or just kind of social events. And I went to my first one last semester at the very beginning. It was an ice cream social, just like kind of to meet people. And most of the people I met there are the friends that I have now in my classes. So there's so many resources out there. And I would also say, while as an undergraduate student, I worked part-time, but I didn't really feel comfortable because I was taking so many classes. I also did a minor. I didn't really see myself working that much, but with the course load that I had for the graduate studies, I was able to work part-time as well. So if that's something you're interested in, it's a lot more common to kind of be able to integrate, working a job with your course flow. And
I would also like to add on that this ECE transfers not just from your bachelor's to master's, but if you are a BSMS student, this is the same process for master's to PhD. It could still be an internal process, and it's much smoother, much faster, and you get more time to think about it. And the best of all, you already know your faculty, you already know the staff working with you, already know your peers, and you already know about the resources that are on campus. So you're really able to optimize, in every field in that aspect.
Yeah, very true. Okay, our last question is, a lot of people, everyone in this room is a undergrad student and may be transitioning to the grad program. Can you describe how being a master's student is both similar and different from being an undergrad student?
I would like to start by saying that the best analogy is that for a bachelor student, you let's say you want to be a cook, you're learning about the basics of cooking or the foundations of cooking. As a master student, you're more involved into creating your own signature dish, but under a supervising chef, right? What this really means in our context is both bachelor's and master's students, they both have to take coursework, rigorous coursework. They both do projects. Bachelor's can do more exams. Master's students can work with peers on more projects or do it solo. But when you commit to the master's, that's what base they're different is you are more specialized, right? You can work on projects that you never thought or you never even knew existed in your bachelor's, and such has been the case with me. It brings you far away, and really it's an accomplishment for yourself or even your family if you're a first generation student in your family. So yeah, it's a big accomplishment, and it puts you at the top of the line.
What do you think?
I'm going to start with the similarities. Obviously, you're still within the same department. There are a bunch of familiar faces in terms of staff, faculty members, and some of the professors already from undergrad. And of course, you also have access to all the same resources like Discord. I guess for the differences, we touched a little bit how classes are structured differently. In my experience, it's also been smaller class sizes compared to large lectures for undergrad. And it's also more common to have 3-hour long classes. So not all classes are 3 hours long, but some of them are 3 hours, some of them are in the evenings. The timings are a little bit different. I also will say, I feel like it's a little bit of a more hands-off learning from the professors, right? Like you have to put in more of the effort, at least for me, requires time outside of classes to stay on track, make sure I'm following with all the material that we're learning in classes. And it's not because the professors aren't teaching. It's not that at all. It's just, everyone in the classes also have different backgrounds. So there might be PhD students in your classes, and it might take some additional time to be familiar with the material that you're learning in each of the classes. I will say though that some of the graduate level courses kind of build off of what you learned in undergrad. So the first few weeks of the semester might be review of foundational topics that you've already learned, and it's kind of building off of that. And I've definitely had a few like aha moments where I've felt like the master's is like a culmination of everything I've learned in undergrad. Like, oh my gosh, like I finally see the pieces coming together.
Great. So now's our time. We're gonna open it up to Q&A. So what questions do we have for our panelists?
So my first question is, did either of you guys take advantage of the Rutgers Princeton exchange? And if so, what courses did you take and how different were they than the courses here?
So I did not take advantage of the Princeton exchange. I actually took my graduate courses while I was an undergrad. So for me, I transferred I transferred six credits, which is 2 courses. But I did, even after I graduated in last May, I was still able to take a course over the summer. And that would directly count towards my master's thing. So effectively, if I'm starting off the batch, I started already being done with 9 credits.
Did you do the Princeton exchange?
Unfortunately not, no.
Okay. Any other questions?
Do you prefer the thesis option to the non-thesis option and why?
So the non-thesis option is a technical paper, which you have to write. Now that could be built off an existing project that you already done in your bachelor's, or you could do something new. For a thesis, though, that actually counts as 6 credits of, or actually, no, sorry, I was mixing with research. But your thesis is more of a research thing where you have to you have to defend a thesis that you are working on. For example, my thesis would be how can you use a reinforcement learning strategy to make decisions, right, in decision support systems. Whereas a technical paper that I could have done would probably be like a cloud computing project, right? If I were to compare the performances of, let's say CUDA, NVIDIA GPU CUDA or PySpark, for example. So it's more of a hands-on project that you generate results of. A thesis is something that you have to research on. Typically would take you, I want to say, it could take you up to 1 year. So that's something you would do as you are doing your graduate degree.
Does it help with like fears like getting jobs having?
Yeah, actually, I'm working on that, but I can't disclose too much. But it sets you up. Our thesis, in my opinion, sets you up really good for R&D. Corporates that are going into R&Ds, right? Because that's actively what you're doing. You're researching and developing, right? It's literally that. So with a bachelor's, when you're applying for jobs, then you're saying, oh, I have learned about all of this stuff, right? I know the foundations of all this stuff, and I want to learn more. With a master's, it's not just that, but you actually worked on a live project like that, or like research like that. And who would you rather trust? Someone who knows, who has experience in doing it, versus someone who's just all theoretical, right? That's your trade-off.
Can I get your opinion on it?
Yeah,
You
sure.
didn't do it?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, I tried a couple of research opportunities throughout undergrad, and it just wasn't for me. I had a few internships that were in corporate industry, and I enjoyed that more. So my mindset was, research is not for me. And it just made more sense for me to pursue the non-thesis track. And I was able to use the final project from one of the courses I took last semester as my technical paper. So it kind of worked out pretty well. And I knew that I would want to start working immediately in industry after. So that's why I made that decision.
I would also like to add that there's really a small line separating the technical and a thesis. A thesis you're just building more off with research that you do. You could really stick to the same topic and make both either technical or thesis out of it. So
There's a hand over
that's
here.
up to preference.
As a TA, how many credits take per sem? And then would you say the workload was?
Yeah, I actually learned that the hard way. I actually took 4 courses while I was doing close to a TA job, right? So I would definitely say for a TA, it's 6 e-credited. It's 6 e-credits. So really, if a full-time master's student wants to take 9 credits, then you would want to stick with 1 course as to do a TA. However, you could manage 2 courses for the TA. It depends on how demanding the course you're taking for, how much you have to grade, if you have to give any recitations, and giving office hours. So I would recommend between 1 and 2. What you could also do is you could take some parts of research with the TA that you're doing. And that could might as well substitute, or you could just go with one course with research and TA. But yeah, the reason is, of course, as you're a TA, and if most of the projects and exams are coming up at the end, you're really grading finals towards the end of the semesters, right? For other classes, while you have your own projects and finals to deal with. So even though you might be thinking that as you might be performing really well while the semester flows, all the way at the end, there's you're not certain about how much work that you're going to get off the bat. Even if you are working on things, even if you like to work on things beforehand, you can still get caught up. So this is definitely a delicate process and depends on how used to are you. And I'll say this, like I've taken 20 credits during my bachelor's and still taking 3 to 4 courses with the TA does not match at all. So you would definitely have to hammer it down.
What other questions are there?
So you mentioned that you focus on electronic devices because you have more of an aptitude towards like physical circuits and electronic applications. Can you give an example of what that actually looks like in course work and projects? Because for the most part, our experience with physical circuits and our curriculum is just the labs, and those vary depending on the TAs that are actually.
Yeah, sure. So this was actually the course that I took while I was still an undergrad, integrated transistor circuit design. So kind of developing a lot of the foundations behind circuit design at a transistor level. And you get to learn a lot about even like the chemistry and physics behind it. So there is a significant theoretical aspect, but then the circuit design comes into trying to make, like, for example, an SRAM cell using LT spice, simulating it, seeing how the circuit would behave through simulation. So I think that's been like the most valuable in terms of like design experiences, a lot through simulation.
So your projects aren't necessarily trying to design something and bring it into fruition of something physical from something.
From the courses I've taken, yes. And also some of the classes have been like writing hardware development code. So coding, but in VHDL or Verilog, which is you could actually simulate that on hardware. So that has like a more, I guess, hands-on experience where you're working with FPGA boards in the lab, you're writing code and you're seeing how it kind of performs on that physical hardware. There's a mix depending on, I guess, what you're interested in.
I've also actually taken some hardware courses, like analog electronics, and I want to say it also depends on how the world around you is moving. Now, typically, even in corporations, you're really stressing more simulations and then bringing the product in later. So, but for example, if you're doing capstone or if you're a senior and you're doing capstone, you know what it's like. You might as well, you have to bring some aspect of hardware into your project. So, you could do something like that, and you could use your technical thesis towards that as well, which is a part of your master's degree requirements.
So I know that some courses are cross-listed, which means they can be used towards your undergraduate degree too. And if you're using them towards your undergraduate degree, they don't count towards your master's.
That's correct.
And then, I know you said you were computer engineering, found yourself doing internships leaning towards one your side, which is kind of the same boat. And then right now, did you finish your computer engineering degree and choose like a master's specialization in something you're passionate about?
Yeah,
So
that's.
do you find like a bit of a struggle in those more electrical engineering like classes?
I would say honestly, no, not really. Just because I guess even though I did finish out with computer engineering, for some of the electives we could choose, I took classes like analog electronics because I knew that I was kind of leaning towards that. And for most of the courses, you're not expected to have like that much background knowledge going into it. It's truly does start from the basics. Some of the classes are actually called like introduction to whatever, kind of implying that it will build up from, the foundational concept. So honestly, no, not really. I didn't really experience that. I felt that I was behind because I hadn't taken a class. I think it integrated pretty well.
And I also like to add that that's also why it's called the EC department. There's for a computer engineer, yes, you're focusing more on software as well, but you're also focusing on hardware, which is why it differs from computer science in a bit. So really, it's a few core courses that are separate. For example, an electric engineer would not be taking Introduction to Computer Systems, but a computer engineer would not be taking, for example, digital electronics or digital signal processing, for example. That's why it's like so close together that even when you graduate and you get your degree, it would say electrical and computer engineer, bachelor's of electrical and computer engineering. So there you could diverge into any path that you want to.
I guess also just to make a really quick note, in all of these classes, like there are also like graduate students from, who did undergrad at different institutions and they came to Rutgers for their master's or for their PhD, or they're international students. So it's kind of known that all the students have different backgrounds, which is why all the professors always, at least the first few weeks of the semester, will be like a review going over a lot of important concepts that you need for the rest of that course.
Or if you're going for a BSMS, you typically know in the back of your mind that you want to go for a master's. So you're already more dedicated from the get-go. You have a close or knit classmates or colleagues who are more dedicated than those you would experience in your bachelor's, right? So yeah, you also get that type of environment where you can try.
So we'll do 2 more questions.
Let's go for
Okay. Do you want to save it to the very end then?
Sure.
Okay. So one more. Is there any more questions for our panelists? Okay, let's give them a round of applause and thank you very much for
Thank you so much, both Nandana and Aditya. And I do want to clarify that none of them were paid for this. So whatever they said out of their own desire to share their knowledge. I think I believe it was Nandana who brought that up. I do want to emphasize that, a couple of these things. One of the things is, yes, all of you probably have complaints about the Rutgers bus system. But if you were to, for example, we were to stay here, you already know how to use that bus system. Whereas if you go to a different institute, you would have to learn that bus system first, right? So, there are benefits of staying in the same place. And the other aspect is that when you do take a break, so I mentioned that I, for example, in my personal career, took a break before I went back to graduate school. Keep in mind that the inertia is just too huge. Once you are used to earning money, and once you are used to not having to worry about homework, and then thinking about going back to school, the inertia is too huge. So sometimes it's, for some people, it's very easy to just do it in one go and be done with it. Okay, so I know it's late, so let's try to wrap it up. So if this sounds interesting to you, first of all, I do want to mention that the graduate program holds weekly office hours. Katie is there 4 days of the week. Every semester her schedule is a little different, but this semester she's remotely working on Thursdays. If her door is open, you can go in there. It's an EE building and talk to her. I also have office hours myself, most Tuesdays 5 to 6. If you cannot make it in person, they are in hybrid mode. I do prioritize in-person students first. So sometimes you would have to wait, and Nana knows that. She had to one time wait till the very end because I had a long list, right? But you can reach out to us and talk to us. In general, if you are interested and you are a junior, you want to start planning your courses beforehand. Even when and if someone asks a question, even when you take a course which is already counted towards your undergraduate degree, it can still satisfy what we call knowledge requirement for your master's degree, which means that, if you plan it well, you say, I don't have to take this course again, and now I can take some other course in place of this course, right? So talk to us, your undergraduate director, if you want to think about your course planning. At master's level, as we have talked about it, you want to dig into one of the specialization areas. Specialization is effectively just a saying that out of 10 courses, we require roughly, for most cases other than computer engineering, and this is a constantly evolving process. We are in the process of changing it further for next year, but the general principle will stay the same. We give you a list of courses that we believe if you take some combination of courses from that, then you can truly call yourself, for example, an expert in communications, or an expert in electronic devices, or an expert in machine learning, right? So out of those 10 courses, we typically require you, okay, take these 6 from a list. The rest 4, you can take whatever else you want, okay? Now, some of you would look at these courses or look at these disciplines and say, you know what, I actually have something else in mind. For example, one group of students that come to me, they say, I want to do something in robotics. You don't have something in robotics. And so what we have is what we call cross-cutting specialization. It requires working with the graduate director and coming up with your own course plan. You cannot just go in willy-nilly and take whatever courses you want. You have to say, this is what I want to do, right? Or sometimes I have students who say, like, I want to do machine learning, but for embedded systems, okay? So they basically take a combination of machine learning and computer engineering, for example. Or they say, I want to do machine learning and robotics, so they take machine learning and things from systems and controls, right? Things like that. So you can actually build your own specialization as long as you have enough maturity to know what area you want to go into. We are right now in the process. I cannot tell you when this will start. Probably next year, maybe the year after that. We are looking into the question of launching a cybersecurity specialization also. Okay, so this is in the works. I don't know what the coursework would look like, but either from fall or from next year. And as I said, we provide you flexibility, but we give you these guidelines. Cross-cutting, I would say maybe like 5 or 6 students every year do that, right? Because they are really passionate about something. They know what they want to do. They have discussions with cybersecurity whenever that launches. But let's say if you want to, you say, oh, it's not launching yet. I still want to do something. We can work something out. Okay. What's the timeline for fall 2026? So for fall 2025, the applications are open. If you are a senior, please apply. It is open. I'll tell you how to apply. But for fall 2026, around middle of November is when you want to apply. You can apply beforehand, but most likely we won't be reviewing it before that. Okay, so it will be sitting in when you can apply. Which by the end of January, we process most of our applications. So if you want to know beforehand, and if you have certain cases, like we had, oh, my company wants me to get admitted beforehand, right? So we can prioritize their decision, things like that. We do want you to maintain your GPA. You can't be like, oh, I applied up to my junior year, I have been admitted, now I can just go and get all Fs, right? We do monitor, we do require that you actually maintain your GPA and grades and things like that. If you want to apply for TA positions, we do recommend that you apply before March 1st. In that case, you also have to get hold of letters of recommendation, which we'll talk about that. But yes.
Some people ask me about applying for spring start dates. When should people apply if they're graduating in the spring?
if they're graduating in fall and they want to start in next spring, yeah. So if you are graduating in fall and want to start in spring 2026, then ideally you can start applying, after this semester is over, your grades are there, and between June, you can apply end of beginning of June. We'll try to get you to the decision by August to September. And again, if someone has unique circumstances, I need to apply for loan, I need to do this, or I need to do that, we can work that out. Okay, how do you apply? Go to go.rutgers.edu/apply now. There, you are going to log in using your net ID. And then you are going to, this is the simplest process. There will be a category here. Once you fill in your details, you would have to pick your applicant type to what's called degree. I don't like this term, but this is a remnant because we are not guaranteeing you 5 years, but pick the degree type to be 5 years master's. Okay. Pick the area of study to be engineering. Pick your instructional location to be New Brunswick. For your program selection, again important, pick electrical and computer engineering 5-year MS New Brunswick option. Okay. And then for term, pick the term by which you would have graduated and when you want to start the first term. So if you're graduating in fall, pick spring 2026. If you're graduating May, pick fall 2025. Okay. Fall 2026, I don't believe is open yet.
It is.
It is? Okay, we are going advanced. So, but don't apply for fall 2026, please, right now. If you want, you can, but we are going to ask you, give us your spring grades, because once you apply, it pulls your Rutgers transcripts, right? And we want to see your spring grades. So don't apply for fall 2026 yet. Now, letters of recommendation. Once you do this, you click and you submit and you are done. We will tell you your letters of recommendation are needed if you do not satisfy certain GPA requirements. So if your GPA is greater than 3.7, because the TA positions are very competitive, we unfortunately have put in this cutoff of 3.7 GPA. You can apply for TA position if your GPA is greater than 3.7. In that case, you need 2 letters. We need letters from the instructors who can talk about your ability to do well in certain courses as TA. They can talk about your ability to excel in communication and really motivate students. And the way you would do that is that 2 of those faculty would have to write a letter and send it over to the graduate program. Okay. If you are not interested in TA position and your GPA is above 3.2, your application is complete. Nothing else is needed. It will be reviewed. You will get a decision. You are done. Okay. So as far as your application, even if you are applying for TA, your application is complete as far as review goes. So 3.2 and above GPA, you don't have to worry about anything. Your application is done. No statement, nothing. Okay. If your GPA is between 3 and 3.2, we do need 1 letter of recommendation. You will ask some faculty. It should come from a faculty who can. What are we looking for in that letter? Let me remind you, we are looking for in that letter some faculty who is saying this student, and ideally from a course related to your faculty related who taught you a course related to your specialization area. What we are looking for is that faculty saying he or she was in my course and I believe they can succeed in our graduate program. Because graduate courses don't have a D grade. Okay, after C, it's direct F. And graduate program, you cannot graduate with a GPA below 3.0. We are not in the business of getting your money and not giving you degree. We want you to succeed. And someone, either you yourself, you say like, you know what, my GPA is low because I just had a few bad semesters, or I wasn't motivated enough, or whatever else happened, or blame it on COVID, right? But now that you're ready for graduate school, you want to commit, and we want some faculty to vouch for that commitment. Okay? If your GPA is between 2.8 and 3.0, then we need 2 letters. Again, if you have worked in Rutgers Dining Services, great. I'm not looking for how good of employee you were there. It's about your academic ability to survive. Okay. If your GPA is below 2.8, it's not a hard cutoff. If you come to me and say, but in that case, come and have a conversation. Tell me, I had extenuating circumstances. I had this issue that led to it. I believe I can do this. Here is the reason, right? And yeah, I'll take questions after I'm done. And the final thing is, after, if you are in the process of getting your letters in, stay connected with the graduate program. Okay. And so this is the process. We will also share these slides with you. So for those who have signed up, and a recording of this session. And at the end of the day, if you have not, and I'll take questions after this, but if you have not, you do not believe what I said, you don't believe what Nandana said or what Aditya said, there's a very smart person who said something, listen to that person, okay? So with that, I'll end and I'll take questions. Someone had a hand before you do. Yes, please.
Your GPA is above 3.2. Is there any additional benefit?